So when we want to try to go and look up something, oftentimes we go directly to Google. In fact, we do it so much that it's become the term. Like, for instance, the way Kleenex is associated with handkerchief, the way Android is associated with any device that's running the operating system. Google has become synonymous with not just search. I mean, yes, it has, but it's expanded, and the way you search is growing. I'll be the first to admit that if I want to look up something, like I said, that's where I go. And I'll usually type it in, but if it's something that's too long, or if I'm in a hurry, then I'll use voice typing. Google Chrome is the most popular browser. In fact, I looked this up just before doing the video a couple days ago. As of February of this year, 2016, as I'm recording this, according to a global map, roughly 75% of the planet runs Google Chrome. And I'll bet a lot of people run it while they're signed into their Google accounts. Me personally, I don't have synchronization turned on because I prefer to keep things separate from one system to the other. For instance, there are some extensions on my older Chromebook right now that I honestly don't want to keep. So rather than having synchronization turned on, I'll just write down the ones that I like and just re-download them onto the new system. I know that may seem cumbersome, and a lot of people are thinking, well, why not just sync it? But again, I'd prefer just to have it turned off. But I'm sure a lot of people would probably just turn it on without realizing it, especially those that are not tech savvy, the types that tend to click, 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 and don't even think about it, don't even read the terms and conditions. I'll be the first to admit, to be honest, that I don't read the terms and conditions of a lot of the end user license agreements. And in my instance, for instance, with the SPSS that I use for data analysis and that I will be using as time goes on in my PhD courses, I don't have time to read all that information because I've got to get work done. So in that instance, that example is basically, I'm sure, how most people are. Google Chrome, as a result, if they say, oh, you should sign in, and they're thinking, okay, I'll do it. And they don't realize that by doing that, all of their browser traffic and whatnot is being tracked. In fact, it's being tracked even if you don't sign in by third-party companies. I can't remember the name of the extension, but there's an extension you can get for Chrome that allows you to take a look at a glance at what other companies are tracking you. And from time to time, I tend to check this out, and I'm surprised. But not necessarily that I'm being tracked, okay? I've gotten used to that, and I think we all need to get used to that because that's basically the world we live in. As I told you at the beginning of this video, every single syllable that's coming out of my mouth, or maybe I didn't, I apologize, this is the second time I've done this, but every single syllable that's coming out of my mouth is going to be up there forever once this video is uploaded. And you're probably thinking, well, what if you take it down? Well, to the average user, yes. But to somebody who really knows what they're doing, let's put it this way, if I didn't have two-factor authentication turned on, who knows what might be happening right now. I've got it set up so that when I log in, I get a text message, and they send me a 6-digit code. And it's because of that, I like that system. It's because of that I can tell if somebody else is trying to break in. Thankfully, that hasn't happened yet, but, But no. So Google is basically the all-seeing eye. So too is Android, because Android is Google's operating system, and the bulk of the phones on this planet run Android, especially in the developing countries. And that's because Android works so well with low-end hardware, it introduces the smartphone ecosystem and the and in a lot of ways modern computing to developing countries. And in that case, all of these people, they've never had this before. So they're probably not fully aware of what's happening. But in this instance, I'm sure they would be more than willing to agree to this sort of stuff, to agree to being tracked. And again, I think it's part of the reasons because they're not aware of it. The other part is it's all brand new to them. So, within developing countries, I think personally that it's more important to get these countries, uh, you know, into the 21st century way of doing commerce so that they can be successful. So there's Android, there's Google Now, which I personally don't turn on, but I understand a lot of people do. And a lot of people are creeped out by the fact that, hey, they already know that I'm going to take a flight from San Diego to New York, and they already know that my flight's going to be delayed and I didn't have to do anything. Well, like I told you a second ago, a lot of people are creeped out, but a lot more people, I'm sure, probably welcome this sort of thing because they're so busy, and I completely understand. They're so busy thinking about other things. In my case, I'm wondering how badly I'm going to, how bad security is going to go, how good security is going to go, um, you know, those sorts of things. That as a society, we're more than willing to have these conveniences. Another example is Google Home. I think once this thing takes off, that Google's already everywhere, but having them in the home, that's going to be a whole new paradigm, I think. And you're thinking, well, Amazon's Echo with Alexa, they're always on, they're always recording, assuming you've got that feature enabled. All of this is opt-in, but a lot of people, well, a lot of it is opt-in. I'm not exactly sure, what is and what isn't. But then again, it's like you need to read the EULA, you need to sign on the dotted line, but a lot of people, like I told you, are not willing to do that. They'd much rather just have the convenience, and they probably don't even realize what's going on with their privacy. Either that or they do, and they don't care. Amazon, the Amazon Echo was the first to market, but it's kind of limited. Google Home is going to level the playing field because it's Google. Google knows everything about you. Google probably knows more about you than you know about you. And a lot of people are, shocked and surprised to hear that. But if you think about it, if you want those convenient features of Google Now, then you have to let Google take this sort of stuff down. And a lot of people are willing to say yes to this. Another example is Google Maps. A lot of people use Google Maps for navigation. I personally have not. That's only because, I stay in my hometown about 75% of the time, and I use their paratransit service or others, to get me around. So as far as navigating is concerned, all I've had to do is worry about giving paratransit an address. But Google Maps, they're building a trail of where we've all been. And a lot of people are surprised to see, in the satellite view, like, hey, there's my house, or there's so-and-so on the street, on the sidewalk. And in New York City, I understand that there are cameras all over the place, and I wouldn't be surprised if those are tapped into Google's services. Voice typing. My girlfriend utilizes voice typing because, in her case, it's actually a lot easier to get a large amount of writing done. But she uses a local piece of software called Dragon Naturally Speaking. A lot of people out there will use Google Now on their phones, and they're so used to doing it that they don't even realize, again, that Google and Amazon and other companies are taking all this information down. They just do it without thinking. And again, we have the example of the Amazon Alexa and the Amazon Echo. Alexa is expanding. I can tell you I got an update recently to have Alexa on my Fire TV stick. That was automatic. I didn't have to do anything about it, but I haven't used Alexa, mainly because I don't have a voice-activated remote. But even if I did, I don't think I would use it. I've got Alexa. I've got an Alexa shopping list that's been added to the Amazon app. But so many people are getting this device and are just having to play with it, seeing what it is. And that's cool, I'm all for it. But if they get used to it and they find it useful, I mean, a lot of people want privacy, and yet at the same time they want these features. And like I told you before, I think we're getting to a point where we can't necessarily have both, especially in the case of one Microsoft. The instant you say yes to utilizing Microsoft Windows, every single blink you take with your camera is being recorded. And I think for a lot of non-savvy computer users, they don't realize this, or if they're of an older generation, they're thinking, oh, I have nothing to hide, and they don't really realize the implications. And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got people that would prefer to use Cortana, and in order for Cortana to work, much like the Amazon Echo and Google Home, especially where you don't have to do anything, you don't have to click a button or anything, you really do have to have it on all the time. And, a lot of times people are saying, the companies will say, well, Amazon and Google are just searching for those keywords. But I can't say for certain if that's true. I'm not, I'm not a company rep, I'm not a privacy expert. But the whole point here is if we want these conveniences, it seems that we are willing to give up some privacy for that. Even with Apple, especially on the iPhone. I remember reading an article recently that says that some people are able to gain access to your phone with just your phone number. I can't remember for certain where I saw that. I could certainly look it up if anybody's willing to, if anybody wants to see it for themselves. Obviously, you shouldn't take my word for it. You should see it with your own eyes, the way I look at things. But everything that's being recorded, it's with Siri. Apple needs to get that information, and Apple says that they only take the information and utilize it for voice dictation analysis. I'll admit that I do use voice typing a lot, especially if I am in a hurry. And it's like second nature to us now. We don't even think about the fact that the companies are gathering this information. It's like we don't really care. I don't want to say we don't care, but I'm trying to figure out how to put that. It's like we want the convenience, but we want the privacy too, and I don't know if we can have both. I honestly don't know. I don't think we can. And speaking of Apple, I play Words with Friends against, friends and relatives. I've noticed that I'll be on Amazon looking at something, and then I'll go to Words with Friends, and at the very bottom of Words with Friends is an Amazon ad for the item that I was just looking at. Okay? This is why, a lot of people, and to be honest, it's not that bad, because if you think about it, if you're in the market for something and you're still shopping and you're thinking about it, and Amazon shows you something similar while you're, playing a game or browsing on a website, and you're thinking to yourself, so-and-so's birthday's coming up. Amazon's recommending this. I was looking at something similar. Why don't I go ahead and compare? So in that instance, a lot of people, they want, I think a lot of people do want that. And then, of course, there's Facebook. Every single website you go to is being tracked by Facebook. Facebook is being tracked by Facebook. But at the same time, it's like I've got, my girlfriend's on Facebook, her family's on Facebook, my family's on Facebook, old high school friends are on Facebook. Facebook's the way we keep in touch. Other websites like Twitter, also the way we keep in touch. And I remember a couple years ago, Twitter had put something down that said that every single thing that you put up there is being archived in the Library of Congress. I don't know if that's still the case, but it's like people just go ahead and post without giving it a second thought. And my point to all of this, and I realize this may be running a little long, society as a whole, the fact that we're willing to have the voice typing and the Google Now and Siri and all of this data being collected by companies to have the convenience. Now, the people that are in the know are the minority, unfortunately. We're a vocal minority, but if you think about the grand scheme of things, we are a minority. I follow, one of my other hobbies happens to be school buses, because I've ridden them all my life. And I follow this one gentleman on YouTube who owns his own bus company in New York. And he's definitely into buses. He is not a techie. He's an example of the kind of person that I'm talking about, where people will see all this, go ahead and do it, and not give their data collection a second thought. And if that's where we're going as a society, I think that a lot of people are thinking, well, what about my privacy? What privacy? If we're going that way as a society, I think that we need to be. I mean, we're already there. I was going to say we need to be ready for a paradigm shift, but I think we're already there. If we're willing to have all these services, and we'd like to have all these services, and I'll admit that they're terrific. Without Facebook, I couldn't keep in contact with some old high school friends. Or, without Skype, which records all my conversations and messaging, because it's a Microsoft product and they record everything you do. Without Skype, I couldn't keep in constant contact with my girlfriend. So I am willing personally to give up some privacy in order to make that relationship work. So as a society, I think that says a lot about us. I think that we're willing to give up privacy for convenience. And again, I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but it seems like people are just using these services without giving them a second thought. Sometimes myself included. Now, I'll go into my Google dashboard and see what's going on, and try to protect myself as best I can. But in terms of complete privacy, we've already crossed the line. We've already crossed the line a good long time ago, I think. So, when a lot of people are saying, oh my God, our privacy is under attack, I honestly think it no longer exists. What do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.